Amazing, amazing. Well, I will. I'll give you guys a little bit of my background and how it led to me to where I am today. And I please feel free to ask questions as we go because I really want to cater it towards you guys because I do have a lot of experience in different areas and a lot of failures I've learned from, and yes, some successes. But I love sharing the failures because not everybody talks about that. That really defines a person and determines really what kind of person they are, from facing bankruptcy to pretty much losing everything to growing back up and getting back to that success and working with some of the most influential people in the world. So I grew up in a small town in Iowa. So in the United States, there's a state, Iowa, in a town called Garnavillo. 700 people in the town. And now there's no grocery store there. There's some gas stations. It's the closest Walmart is like at 45 minutes away. So that kind of gives you a background of where I'm from, surrounded by cornfields. I grew up in the ice business. So my dad sold packaged ice for a living. So like in your drinks, maybe your vodka or whatever it is, the cubed ice. My dad was a wholesale distributor for ice. He would buy it from the manufacturer. He would distribute it to convenience stores, bars, special events, you name it. So ever since I was born in 1989, I'm 31 years old. From the day I was born, literally my dad, like I remember because I was born on New Year's Eve, he was so happy because it was a tax deduction off his taxes. Like I grew up and hey, I'm the full entrepreneur. Like he had me slinging ice for him when I was probably 5 years old. I remember when I started out making $5 a day, it went to $20 a day. I was at $5 an hour. And then eventually worked my way up to buying into the business and actually eventually buying the company from him, which I eventually sold. So growing up the ice business, I learned the power of customer relationships and sales. That is a really powerful thing in anything. If you can really understand the power of relationships and communicating with others and knowing how to add value and go above and beyond, you can really have success in any field that you go on. And for me, it was adding value to mom and pop stores. We had restaurants, we had convenience stores, we had people that owned bars, like just people that were in small towns and they loved what they did and they're making a living. I really enjoyed, honestly, I to this day miss seeing some of my customers that I had for 25, 30 years. And so that was my background. I end up, one of the disadvantages that I had growing up that I want to share because that really defined me and made me into who I am and made me into the great communicator I am today. I grew up with a speech impediment. So I had a lisp when I was born. So at kindergarten, I remember my kindergarten teacher, I do remember this. I remember she said something to my parents about how I needed to go to a special class for speaking. And I remember hating that. I hated having to go to the class. And it's because I couldn't say my S's and my THs. And I couldn't communicate like everybody else. And so I did that. And I remember getting bullied by people because I couldn't speak like them. That was really a time in my life. And again, I was young. I remember 8, 9 years old. I remember telling myself, and this is looking back 20 years. I remember telling myself, I don't want to be like this. I want to be like other people. And I want to show that I'm worthy enough to be a great communicator. And so what I did every night in front of the mirror is I would speak in front of the mirror. Imagine a 10-year-old speaking in front of the mirror and saying, I am a success. I'm a great speaker. I'm a great communicator. And I would literally practice this. And I did this to really work on becoming a great speaker. I remember people telling me, Brennan, do you have a lisp? I would tell them, no, what are you talking about? I would act as if I didn't have one. I was actually telling my subconscious that I didn't. And before I know it, I started believing that. And before I knew it, by the time I was 13 years old, 14 years old, I no longer had a speech impediment. And I started putting myself in front of audiences and speaking. I was very nervous at the time. But I always told myself, if I could keep putting myself in front of a group of people, I'd eventually get better. One of the key components of why I wanted to become a great speaker is because I knew that one day I wanted to do sales. I enjoyed selling ice and I knew I wanted to be a salesman. And so that was my core drivers. I didn't want to be like, oh, I have a disadvantage in sales because I can't speak. So later in the story, I'll kind of tell you why that really drove me and how it led me in good directions, but also bad. So I went to college. I went to Iowa State University. my first entrepreneur endeavor in college was I was selling moonshine out of the dorm rooms. I was selling actually apple pie. I had a famous formula, which I haven't made in years, but it's really good. And I sold it to the people in the dorm rooms, and I made money doing that. I got a 1.68 GPA my first semester. I got kicked out of the dorms and told that you're a disruption to this place and you should leave. I almost dropped out of college, but I realized that I needed to change my life around. And what really changed my life is I read this book. It's called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. If you have not read it, please do read it. It was written by Napoleon Hill in 1937. And what he did is he interviewed some of the most successful people of our time that built America. Henry Ford, Andrew Carnegie, Thomas Edison, you name it. And he studied what made them successful and he put it into 13 principles. Those 13 principles changed my life. They made me realize when I was sitting in that dorm room and had bad grades and really was just drinking and doing drugs and literally my life was kind of going the wrong direction. I realized that I didn't have to be the smartest guy. I didn't have to know everything. All I needed to do is know exactly what I wanted out of this life. And that if I surrounded myself with the right people, what I call the mastermind group, and if I kept going towards something and had a burning desire that I could achieve it, and if I didn't quit, I eventually would achieve it. And so that changed my thought process. It really changed how I thought. And quite honestly, if people don't have the ability to read something like that or be aware that, hey, you can actually do whatever you set your mind to, I know it sounds very cliche, but it's true. I mean, if I wouldn't have read, I don't know where I'd be today. I'd probably still be in that small town and not doing the things I do today. So I read that book. My first endeavor that I pursued through the principles of Think and Grow Rich is I invented this product called Arctic Stick. It's a product to cool and flavor drinks. So as in the ice business, I wanted to find ways to make more money beyond just selling ice. I wanted something to go on a higher level. So I invented the product that cool and flavor drinks. I spent 3.5 years developing the product. I ended up getting a couple patents, trademarks on the product. I took it to market. I sold it on Amazon. I learned a lot. Let's just say I put over $100,000 of my own money into the invention. I probably made $8,000 to $10,000 back on it. There's a old saying that 1 in 1,000 inventions actually make more than they initially invested. I was a guy that had a lot of drive and ambition, and I did not make more than I had invested. But what it did do is it led me to this thing called crowdfunding. It led me to raising money. So back in 2014, it was 2013, 14, crowdfunding started becoming a thing. So Kickstarter, Indiegogo, these are platforms where people could put their projects on the platform. They could say, hey, here's my idea. Here's what I'm doing. If you make a donation or a pledge towards this, I will give you first access to this product. I will provide you like an experience along the way. You'll be updated on this company and you will get access to the product. Then I'll use your money to create the product. So that's what I did. I did a Kickstarter campaign. This is back in 2014. This is what led me to get into the video marketing and TV shows. So what I found out from crowdfunding is it's very hard. Raising money is not easy. And I found out that a lot of people didn't know how to raise money. Okay, just keep in mind here, this is July of 2014. I saw where the market was going, and I knew that crowdfunding was going to be a new thing to change the way we do things in the world, to launch products, to launch companies, to crowdsource, to basically, I mean, what even led into the crypto space. And I knew that if I could become the expert in that space, I could put myself in a position to be in front, brand myself around that, and be ready for the opportunity. So I spent the next year focusing on crowdfunding. I was studying campaigns. I launched a podcast show back in 2015 called the University of Young Entrepreneurs, now called the Live to Grind podcast. It has 423 episodes now. I did that to interview people. And also my way to, I hate the word, hey, can I pick your brain? It was my way to say, hey, can you come on my show? I'll introduce you to my audience, even though when I started, I had no audience. But it was my way to create an experience for people, connect with them, and learn from them. So I sat down with some of the most knowledgeable people of our time, and I interviewed them in person. And I knew that I was building a connection to work with them in the future, but also I was learning from them. And so some of the people that I interviewed 6 years ago now are people I do business with. And so as I interviewed them, I started building these connections and building my brand. And so, you know, back then I didn't have much money. I was actually at an F-150 pickup I was sleeping in my truck. I once did a tour from the Midwest all the way out to LA and back, a 9-day trip for less than $700. I slept in my truck every night. I ate canned food. And when I was lucky, I had a $5 footlong at Subway. And at one time I actually slept, if you ever been to Hollywood off of Vine Street, there's a LA Fitness there. They have a parking ramp. If you ever go there, you'll think of me. What I did is I would park my truck 2 layers up, two levels up. And then I negotiate a free week pass at the LA Fitness Center. And what I would do is I would sleep in my truck at night. I would edit podcast shows. I would wake up really early in the morning. I would work out at the gym, and then I would shower there so I could get my shower in. And then I would go to whether an interview or the event I was at. That was literally my quickest way to travel. I did not want, there's so many people out there that say they don't have the money, they don't have the resources, they can't do something. I never wanted to be the person that made an excuse. I wanted to be the person that made it work. And I made it work, and I'm glad that I did. And through that tour, I connected with so many influential people. And then I had my lucky break when I had an opportunity to interview a guy named Lee Dumas. If you ever heard the podcast Entrepreneurs on Fire, he, at the end of the show, I always said to people, and I still do to this day, by the way, is when I got done with the interview, I said, hey, how can I help you? I said, this is what I do. I'm a crowdfunding expert. And by the way, at that time, I had only done a couple of campaigns. And I said, if I can help you in any way, let me know. And he said, hey, I'm actually thinking about doing this book called The Freedom Journal. And maybe I'll take you up on that. I did not let him follow up with me. I followed up with him. After that call, I spent a day creating a whole crowdfunding platform page, like a website almost. I sent him the login and said, hey, let's do this. I'll take it on for free. Just give me a testimonial and let's do this. 6 months later, we launched the campaign. And within 33 hours, we raised over $100,000. By the end of the 33-day campaign, we did $453,000 in sales. It went on to do well over 7 figures in sales. And we built 3 schools for Pencils of Promise. We had a donation component and made it the 5th largest crowdfunding campaign in history for a book. So here's the book right here. It's an amazing book. And that was my journey. That was the beginning that really got me out there. Once I did that, everybody wanted to work with me. It was like, where were all of you before? And so I had put in that time and effort. And just so you know, some people, especially in some of my generation, like they don't understand the power of working for nothing. Well, I knew I wasn't working for nothing. I was building a relationship and building my inner circle. Lee Dumas has had me on his show 4 times now. I think the only other person that's been on his show that many times is Tony Robbins. Every time I go on his show, it gets exposure. One of the times I went on the show, I generated over $50,000 in revenue from listeners. It just shows you that if you do put in the work at massive value, you can get paid in many ways. And so that led me to working with Kevin Harrington, the original shark of Shark Tank. Kevin came to me and saw what I did with Lee Dumas. And he said, hey, can we do that together? And I got a book right here called Put a Shark in Your Tank. And so we co-authored and co-launched the book called Put a Shark in Your Tank. This was a very successful campaign. It wasn't as successful on the front page where it showed we raised about 40 grand. But on the back end, we did a mastermind event, which led to a $100 million product that launched called Peeps. It was probably one of the most successful products Kevin had. And it came from that campaign, from the crowdfunding and marketing that we did digitally. And so where I transitioned to the crowdfunding, I started raising money. I mean, I've consulted and been flown out to XPRIZE and worked with them. That was probably one of my highest honors in crowdfunding because I always looked up to XPRIZE and Peter Diamandis. But also, it goes full circle. That book called Think and Go Rich right here. So I read that when I was 21 years old. 6 years later, I had an opportunity. A team came to me and said, hey, we're about 20-30% in filming this project called Think and Go Rich Legacy. We're creating a docudrama based on the book Think and Go Rich by Napoleon Hill. We see that you're a big advocate of the book. We see that you raise money. If you raise money for this and help us, we'll make you a part of this project. Well, 3.5 months later, we did a campaign. We made it the largest docudrama in history for a crowdfunding campaign. It was about a $1.4 million budget. We raised about 380 grand through the campaign, which went on to raising another, I don't know how many from the campaign. Long story short, I helped him raise about half the funds for the movie. And then I became the youngest member in the movie. So now this movie, Think and Grow Rich Legacy, which by the way, afterwards, DM me, I'll get you free access to it. It's in 3 languages. It's in Spanish, English, Czech Republic. It's been seen by millions of people and it's impacted many lives. And that's another just big accomplishment for me, because the book changed my life. And the fact that I was able to take Napoleon Hill's work to the next level was like something no money could put a price on that. And so that was huge for me. But what I learned, guys, is the power of, for one, a specialized knowledge. Crowdfunding was my specialized knowledge. And I used that to make money and get myself into great opportunities. And then I started using it to crowdfund my own companies. But the key component to fundraising was the video. So video marketing is what I really focus on now, because video tells a story. You look at, for thousands of years, we've been telling stories, whether we're sitting around a fire or great communicators. You look at Gandhi, you look at Martin Luther King, you look at all these people that can tell stories and visually like communicate it to the world. Well, the best way to really tell a story is through a film, a video, a project, a TV show. Think about a movie that impacted your life and it changed your life forever. And that movie or that film or that show that you watched inspired you and made you do something different with your life. That's what I really took away and I wanted to focus on. So what we did is we created these videos that were anywhere from 2, 3, 4 minutes long that told a story, got their attention, and got people to take their money and put it into our campaigns. So basically it was marketing, but it was storytelling. And so if you can learn to master your storytelling process, you can learn to sell. And so once I realized that, that's where I got into the film for Think and Rich Legacy, but also I started doing my own TV shows. The first TV show I did was called Ambitious Adventures. It was with a guy named Greg Roulette. We traveled the country, we interviewed people. It was a hard run. We put a lot of work into it, but it did end up going, it went on Amazon Prime. We had to deal with Entrepreneur Network. They released on their platform. And we were one of the first people to get on Facebook Watch before Facebook Watch became what it was. It was pretty cool back then. And so we never ended up doing another season for that show because Greg was going in his direction. I was going in my direction. I ended up doing another show, and then I did another show where I ended up getting these with my wife. So we created a show called Success in Your City. And this is kind of what leads up to where I am today. So in 2018, in June 2018, or 17, that is, we were sitting on a beach in Puerto Rico. And I said to my wife, I said, what are we going to do next? And I guess take that back. We were not married yet. We were not even engaged, but we were dating. And I said, what are we going to do next? And I'd always had this crazy ass idea to live in 12 cities in 12 months around the country. I just wanted to do it. And I knew that if I didn't do it then, I would never do it. And I told her, why don't we live in 12 cities in 12 months? And she said, okay, let's do that. And then I said, why don't we film a TV show on it? Because I think you and I would be great co-hosts. We can create a show around it. That took a little more explaining and convincing to do. Maybe a couple of pina coladas in, we definitely got a yes out of that. But after that trip, we ended up focusing on that. We started brainstorming. We checked out the cities we wanted to go to. We started strategizing. We started recruiting our team. And that fall, we did a mini trip. It was a 33-day trip to different cities in the country that we potentially want to go to. We started speaking to groups and sharing our vision, getting sponsors. And then it was December 27th of that year, we actually left our town in Iowa and we traveled the country. So we filmed this show, and the whole show is about the question, what is success? Which I want you all to ask. And I ask myself this every day. What does success mean to you? And what is your own version of success? And how can you achieve that? And so that's what we asked others around the country, from athletes to billionaires, to homeless, to people in real estate, to women in fitness, to musicians, you name it. And so we highlighted that on our show. And now the show has went on to win Emmy Awards. It's on Amazon Prime. And after we got that show out, which we're still releasing a couple more episodes, by the way, I told my wife, I'm like, we have to highlight this. Like, we have to tell people what it took to create the show, because they see the show and you think, oh, success, Emmys, all this shit. But nobody really knew what we had to do. I almost lost everything. I almost went bankrupt in the process. My wife, fiance, now wife, like, we almost called the wedding off. Like, we went through hell and back because it was way harder than we thought. And so we wanted to share this in a book. So we launched this book called The Road to Success, How to Achieve Success in Business, Life, and Love, made it a bestseller. We actually launched it back in, it was September, so not that long ago. And so we wanted to get that out to really show behind the scenes. So they're two supplementary. You have the book that tells behind the scenes, and you got the show that kind of shows the success stories along the way. And so where I'm at today, and I'd love to open this up into questions and go in any direction you want. What I do today is I do a lot of public speaking. I invest in advising companies. I'm advising right now. We have 13 different companies that I'm advising. So I have stock in various companies, 4 of them, which will most likely go public in the next 12 to 16 months. I'm actually working on a SPAC deal right now, which is pretty interesting. Special purpose acquisition company. Basically, they take a shell company, they take it public, and they acquire existing company. That's something I really love in doing because I have learned the power of my time, and people can't hire me for an hour. It's basically based on a project, and I only take on projects that align with my goals and where I want to go in life. But also, there's got to be massive upside, and that's where when I can get a part of these cool tech companies, these are multi-million-dollar exits. We have a couple companies now that we think will have billion-dollar exits. So I take my video marketing skills, my crowdfunding skills, my experience and connections, and utilize them to become a board member on companies and help them grow substantially. That's what I do now, and I love it, man. Or all of you, like I really enjoy what I do. I love helping people. I do put on some training programs, so I do some stuff in the education space, and I also have the planning of another TV show that I'm going to do because I love telling stories. But that's where I'm at today. I'll open up to any questions, and again, there's no question. I've never had it where somebody's asked me a question before that I said I won't answer. So I'm pretty open with about anything you want to ask.
Wow, what an intro.
I'm muted. Does the mic work? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, very good. So I have to ask the obvious question. What is success?
Yes. Success I'll say what success is to me. Success is to me is being the best version of myself, spiritually, with my relationship, financially, in all areas of my life. And my impact or goal is to impact 1 billion lives on earth by December 31st, 2029. And to do that through inspiration, motivation, education, through speaking, podcasting, online education, masterminds, events, and my TV show. So that's my core mission and what I'm doing. And every day when I wake up, I just want to be the best version of myself. I don't want to compare myself to others. I obviously have mentors that I strive to be like one day, but I just want to be the best version of myself. And that's for me. And the best way I can do that is through communication and through producing these shows and working with very high level companies. But what I tell people and what I've learned about success is different for everyone. And so many people, especially with social media, I love social media, but I also in some ways hate it because what it does is people compare themselves to these people online, these influencers that they call themselves, or these people that are wealthy or whatever. And they think I have to be like that. And their priorities are they feel like they have to be like that to be successful. But if they only realize that, if they really figured out what they wanted personally, maybe somebody wants to be the best mother or the best father. Maybe you want to be the best athlete. Maybe you want to make $1 million or $1 billion, or maybe you want to go and be high up in your company. You have to figure out what success is to you. So what we learned is these people figured out what success meant to them. I mean, Shea Hillenbrand, who we had on our show, he played for the Red Sox, the Dodgers. He made $20 million in his career. He left the game of baseball and he lost everything. He was living out of his van and he was suicidal. And from a guy that everybody praised, that literally had lost everything, he said when he was at the peak of his game, he did not like his life. He didn't care that he's a millionaire. He didn't care any of that. Like, he was miserable. And so stories like that really open you up to like what success is. And those kind of stories, so you know, is what led us. I mean, my wife and I, after 3 episodes in of our show, filming in different cities, we went home, we sold our house, we sold 99% of our things. I sold 2 businesses. So that one ice business I told you about, that had been in my family since 1986. I had bought it from my dad 4 years prior. I sold the company. I realized that was holding me back. It was a very tough situation and very hard conversation with my father that I cried on. And then I sold an event business. So I had started one of the largest events in Iowa called Young Entrepreneur Convention to bring young entrepreneurs together. And I sold the majority share of that. So I had a huge pivot. I mean, what I did in 12 months is I sold 2 companies. I sold my house. I sold most of my things, and my wife and I got married, and I almost went bankrupt. That all happened in 12 months. Like when I say this, sometimes I still can't believe it. And I survived that. So that completely opened me up to what success is. And there's one other component to it, is each person had contribution as one component of their success. It was giving back, whether it was giving their time, giving their money, giving their resources. One cool story moment I want to share with you is my executive producer of our show, and now my business partner. We advise companies together. His name's Jeff Hoffman. Jeff Hoffman is the co-founder of Priceline.com. If you guys, when you go in the airports, you see them kiosks, he invented that. Jeff Hoffman is, well, billionaire, but also he's just a great human being. He's a philanthropist. Jeff said to me one time, it was myself and my wife and him, and she went to the bathroom, and Jeff said, "Brandon, you see that right there? Don't ever lose that." He said, "That right there is what success is." He said, "I have multi-billionaire friends that keep trying to buy the next big boat or yacht, and their family won't talk to them." He said, "Brandon, there's not a day that goes by that somebody doesn't ask me for money. I don't know if people like me for me or because of my money." That is success right there. And that conversation changed my life, because I looked at my life and I realized, wow, like some of us don't realize what we have. And that, from coming from somebody like that, that just made me look at things differently. And I still am driven by making a lot of money, but not in the ways most people are. So changed my entire perspective. And I would throw back to all of you, what areas of your life are you not achieving success in terms of where you should be? Whether it's your family, your relationships, your children, maybe your money, or what you're pursuing. Some people pursue things for the wrong reasons, whether it's money or doing something because somebody else wants them to do it. I always tell myself, I want to be true to myself. Nobody can buy me. I want to do what I want to do. Because at the end of the day, when we all die or we look back in life, don't have any regrets. And so that really is what, when I wake up in the morning, I ask myself, what can I do today to make it my best day in case this was my last day?
Mm-hmm. Great.
You've stunned us all.
Nikki, you're talking. I can see your lips moving, but unfortunately, I can't hear you.
Now you should be able to hear me. I want to invite you all to write your email addresses into the chat, because I'm gonna buy a book from Brandon for all of you and send them to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that, buddy.
Thank you.
And then I open up the floor for your thoughts and questions and interact with Brandon.
Yeah, fire away, my friends.
Yeah, I was intrigued by the 12 cities in 12 months. I mean, fascinating idea. I know you said it was a incredibly difficult journey. So 2 questions really. What there must have been some fantastic experiences that you had through that 12 months, and secondly, you said there are a number of points that almost broke. What did you learn, and can you share some? 1 or 2 things that you learned that you'd maybe do differently now if you did it again.
Yeah, so we went out for 12 cities to live in. We ended up living in 6, but we did travel through 43 of the US states. So we did travel through all of these states. There was a lot of hardship, but there was a lot of great times too. Like, learned so much. Like, there was one time where we went to Boston, Massachusetts, and we got there on May 1st. And we left by May 30th. And we went to a city that we didn't know. And we somehow pulled together a story and a show in 30 days. I flew out my crew. I had to figure out the casting, funding, all of it. And I don't know anybody that can pull that off. Like, if you know anything about production, and this isn't like some YouTube, this is like the most high quality show. We have close to $500,000 in this show. And so that was a cool experience. And my editor once said to me, Brandon, he was part of my film crew. He said, Brandon, he's Colombian, I don't know how you do it. He's like, you bring us all together and you put us in this impossible situation and somehow we pull it off. I just don't know how you do it, but we did it. And so it was so cool for me. But I'll tell you, some of the cities, it was cool to meet people. One of the most trying times for me, which was one of the best times, was I don't say best, but it was like opened my eyes and heart open. Is so we filmed the first episode in Scottsdale, Arizona, and everything went well. We raised about $40,000 for the Boys and Girls Club for charity. We filmed the show. We had a great episode. Everything is going good, and then I had a couple obstacles. So I had my current business now. I was in the process of buying out a business partner. And so not only was I buying out a business partner, but I just got done with an event in LA that cost me a lot of money, that almost hurt me financially. And it did. And so once we got to Austin, Texas, our next city, we for 3 weeks, I was in a very bad spot. Like, we're in this hotel, my fiance and I were in this hotel, and she was dealing with depression. I was like dealing with no money. I was negative thousands in my bank account. My banker called me every single day, said, Brandon, when are you gonna get money coming in? And I was in the process of like, we're going on episode 2 of the show. And I asked myself, is anybody gonna fucking watch this show? Like, I'm just like, does anybody care? Like, do they even care? Like, what am I even doing? Am I nuts? Like, why am I even doing this? And it was really a spiritual time for me, because that's when I kind of really started believing in God. And so my wife and I went to this church. It's called Riverbend. And we were there, and we sat down, and the pastor said, some of you are here and you don't know why you're here, but you're here for a reason. And like instantly started tearing up and crying, because I knew it was like speaking right to me. And so that was so crazy. The rest of the day we were at peace. And within a few days later, I had a deal that I'd been working on, an advisory deal that had went through, and it went basically public, which I made more money in that day than I had made in the whole prior year of my career. And so I went from almost like literally nothing to having a lot of money. And that was life-changing for me. And the lesson is, like Napoleon Hill talks about, our greatest times, or our greatest times happen just beyond our darkest times. Our brightest times happen just beyond our darkest times. So like our greatest successes happen just beyond a huge like hit. And so that was it for me. Like, that was living proof, like, hey, this is true. And I just kept going. And towards the end, I was at peace. I was literally at peace of where I was. And because of it, I was rewarded. So I think the lesson for everybody here is, don't ever quit. I've seen those dark times. It's not fun in that moment, but once you have it happen to you and you get through it, you realize you can do anything. And so that was crazy for me. And after we got through that, we were on a whole new perspective to finish the show. And we finished out the rest of the show. We didn't quit. And what really drove us was, I wanted to tell the stories. The stories need to be told. It wasn't about us. It was about telling the stories of the people in every city we went to. Their stories need to be heard. But yeah, thank you for that question.
Well, thanks. It's that deep drive, that deep passion that gets you through it as well. Yeah.
It is. You got to have beyond. It can't be about the money or fame or any of that shit. It's got to be like, I really wanted to tell a story. It was a project that I wanted the world to see. It was about helping people, and you have to have a deep drive. 99.9% of people out there will not do what I did. And there were sacrifices along the way, and some that I questioned, like, am I doing the right thing? Most people don't have that drive, and that's all right. But it's when people ask me, hey, I want to create my own show, I almost like kind of stray them away from it.
Bren, you're talking about the deep dive. Is my mic on? Because I don't see it. Sorry.
Yep, it's on.
You're talking about the deep drive. I feel like this is also a muscle that you need to train, right? It's like you do push-ups, and when you stop doing push-ups, the muscle gets weak. And I think it's the same with drive. You have to find your influx of energy and spirit, and you have your book, but how do you I mean, you're a powerhouse. How do you train your muscle, your deep drive?
Yeah, so that full circle from the beginning of the story, I'll share part of that. So the lisp I had, what I found out later in my life from some deep transformation and coaching and programs I went through is, as a kid, I was always trying to prove I was worthy. And throughout the rest of my life, I was trying to prove shit to somebody. I had to prove that I was worthy, prove I was success, whether to girlfriend or my father or whoever. Once I realized that I don't have to prove shit to anybody, I did it. And I am a success. That changed how I thought. But that whole like proving things was what led me to being the captain and state defensive end of football. It led me to playing rugby and being good at that. It led me to these awards and successes. And so that was a driver for me early. And once I realized that kind of changed. I mean, look at it. Like, that was when I was a kid. So that was really ingrained into my wiring. So that did drive me. But now it's, man, it's the whole thought of, like, we only have so much life on earth. And think about that. Like, if today was your last day, like, what would you do? Like, if you knew that you had to keep, like, if you want to be the best version of yourself and grow, I want a legacy. I don't just want to die and my grave is like weeded over in 100 years. I don't want that. That scares me. That's actually what I fear. What I fear is I didn't do enough while here. And I think about that all the time. And so that drives me. That drives me to become better. And also my family and my wife, I want to make the most for them. And I do want to be the best version of myself because I know my potential. I don't feel like I'm living my potential. Like, I'm doing things at a high level, but I don't think I'm ever living like I always know I can do more. And I struggle with that sometimes, guys. I do. I struggle with the thought of I'm not doing enough. How can I get better? How can I better delegate? How can I better surround myself with the right people? How can I better delegate my money? It's also too, because when you get a lot of opportunity, it's not an issue opportunity. It's issue is figuring out what you say yes and no to. So, like, I know where my core mission is, but when I have really good opportunities, I'm like, okay, is this 100% what I want to take? Because if I say yes to this, I'm saying no to something else that could be bigger in the future. And so those are the things that drive me. And then I'll give you one more experience that drives me. Death. I had a incident. This recently happened, and it's I haven't really talked about this much, but I had it was May 30th of last year, so not quite a year. My wife and I experienced an accident, and we were first to the scene. We saw the girl drive by us, and 30 seconds later, we saw her go off this engravement. We pulled over, and within 2 minutes, I was by her side. We were by her side. And this girl was 23 years old, and she was ejected from the vehicle, and she still had life in her. And we sat there 15 minutes until the ambulance came, and she passed. So as I held her hand, she went to heaven or whatever you guys believe in. And so that transition was like, wow, I don't know this girl, but I feel like I know her so well because I just was there as she died. And then as we went home that night, I'm like, holy shit, like, just like that, you can die. And it really what bothered me most is now I don't see posts about it. Like, I was obsessed with searching online about who her family was, everything else. And that reminded me, wow, like, our life is short, really short. Like, we can just die like that. And also, what if people forget about me in a couple weeks? Like, what if I die and I'm not remembered? That scared me. That did. And so I think about that every day. It really sticks with me. And so it's moments like that that really push me to become a better version for people that don't have the opportunity, that are no longer alive, or they don't have the opportunity to live that.
Mm-hmm.
Next question.
Brandon, thank you very much for sharing this. I have a question. Maybe I missed it in the intro because I came a little bit too late. Did you ever go to film school? So the question would be, where do you know from what you can do regarding the whole film setting and directing your show, putting up your show? Where did
I learn?
Where did you take the dramaturgy knowledge and everything to get the pieces together and make them boost?
Yeah, so good question. So when I was doing crowdfunding, I did this event in Iowa called Young Entrepreneur Convention. And this guy reached out to me and sponsored the event. He was from Florida. His name's Greg Roulette. He came to my event. And at the event, he said to me, hey, I do master classes. How would you like to fly to Florida and film a master class with me? And part of my brain, my thinking, it was like, oh, he's not paying me. It's got a lot of time. I don't have time. And I trained myself when I had if you ever read the book Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill, it's like the whole negative, the positive thoughts in your head. I trained myself to say, screw it, I'm going to do it. So I flew to Florida, did the masterclass with him. And then I soon found out why he wanted me to come to Florida. He said, Brandon, I have this pilot run of this TV show called Ambitious Adventures. And he said, if you help me raise the money for it, crowdfund it, I'll make you my co-host and we can create this TV show together. That was my opportunity to get into the TV space. And I was really lucky. I ended up moving to Florida for a year to be closer to him. And so we went and filmed that show. I learned by experience, and I learned by a lot of trial and error and spending a lot of money on videography and cinematography. But Greg's partner, his name is Nick Natton. I don't know if you guys know who Nick Natton is, but Nick Natton is, in my mind, one of the greatest like directors of documentaries. So he did Visioneer with Peter Mendes. He did the Jack Canfield story. He did Larry King, the story on Larry King. He did Rudy, like you ever seen Rudy. So you name the most powerful documentaries out there. Another one is Operation OUR, which was to end sex trafficking. He created those projects. So long story short, I surrounded myself with the people that were the best in the industry, and I learned. I soaked it up, and I did. Like I acted. I've spent, I mean, probably close to now $1 million between you look at the videographers, cinematographers, travel, everything for creating shows and projects. That's how much I've spent in video. Like so much that it almost hurt me at one point because I was so obsessed with it. I immersed myself into it and surrounded myself with the best. And I'm still learning, by the way. I call myself a rookie in this. Like I've only been doing this for 5 years. I'm very new, but I surrounded myself with the best. And because of that, what I'm good at is bringing people together and coordinate towards what I want. So I'm the producer. I mean, I'm great in front of the camera, but I know how to bring great people together to create a great project. And I would tell anybody that. I still, people that reach out and they say they want to create a show or a film, I say, go work for months for free with a known director or somebody and go just soak it up and add value to them. And if you add massive value to them, they will not want to let you go. And so that's what I did. And so surround yourself with the right people.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I think Napoleon Hill also in his book said that you become the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with.
That saying is what I've lived my life on, my friends. It's I got in business with the right people that already achieved what I want to achieve. My mentors, the people that I strive to become and who I'm in business with today, who are like family to me, is Kevin Harrington, Rizzle Shark and Shark Tank, Jeff Hoffman, co-founded Priceline.com, Greg Roulette, who's a great friend who got me in the TV space, and then my director, Sean Bella, who's very good at what he does, and my wife, and then a few handful of other people. And I surround myself with those people, and that's how I'm able to get these opportunities, because I'm in that atmosphere, and just by surrounding yourself with them, an opportunity comes up. And then what do you do? What do? I say, hey, I can help you with that. But the hardest part is getting to those people. And how I did it is I came from a place of serving, and I made them money. Like really, they first started with making them money, but also finding ways to help them and really wanting to help them, not like, hey, what's in it for me?
We still have a few minutes. Questions?
Brandon, what do you think stops younger people, or the younger version of you, from acting like you do? What do you think is stopping people in the American land of opportunity from taking advantage of what you have clearly taken advantage of, and not being scared of failure and learning from it and building and developing? What's stopping people?
Yeah, I mean, I'm living the American dream. I really am. I think the number one thing is they surround themselves with the wrong people, but also as you grow, sometimes you gotta let go of people that maybe were your friends, but might be hurting you. And sometimes it seems like wicked to say that, but I mean, I started getting some people that would mock what I was doing. They would make fun of it, and they would say I was never gonna like go anywhere. And I knew that having that in my head was not gonna help my subconscious or my thoughts. So I had to exit that out of my life. People don't surround themselves with enough people that are positive. They don't get the right mentors. But also, I mean, I look at the times that I wanted to quit, is because I wasn't seeing the success I wanted. It always takes longer than you think. And so many people don't have patience. I mean, it's crazy what you can do in 5 to 10 years. Most people, they overestimate what they're going to do in 1 to 2 years, but they underestimate what they can do in 5 to 10 years. I look now 10 years ago, like, holy shit, I've come a long way. Now, once I started getting to like year 5, 6, 7, 8, it started growing. And now I'll tell you guys, in the last 8 months, I've grown 20x. Like, it's insane of where I'm at right now. And I've grown so much, and it's because I kept going. And so I guess my younger self, for other people, they don't usually break through that barrier because they throw the towel in. And I get it. I see, like, it's hard, right? But I just kept going. And then once you see those different successes, those wins, those little wins along the way, it gives you confidence. And it makes you realize that, hey, like, I can do this. And then once you get more confidence and momentum, it's easier. And then people start seeing that. So they don't surround themselves with the right people. They don't put themselves in a positive atmosphere. And if honestly, if they had a mentor, like, if I saw a younger person 10 years ago, like somebody that's 20 years old, and they had somebody like me in their life, I would be there to make sure they succeeded. Not enough people have mentors in their life. And our school system too. I think our school system is shot. I really do. Like, I think they teach you to work, and nothing wrong with this. They teach you to go work in society and how like regular people would, but they don't teach you enough innovation to think outside the box. And if they don't change, I mean, this is a big passion why I teach the things that I do, is because I grew up in that, right? I didn't know that. I wish everybody had read this book. Like, this book will change your life. But if you understand these principles, you can go do whatever you want in life. And so not enough of that is taught. And the problem is sometimes we're giving people too much where they can't fail on their own. I failed on my own. I'm glad my father did that. He didn't give me a silver spoon. He made me learn myself. And I'm very grateful.
Do you think we have the wrong people doing the teaching?
The wrong people? A lot of times, yeah, I do. And nothing against them. It's just they don't know what they don't know, right? Yeah. They're put in these positions. I mean, that's why people like myself or people in this room are high demanded, because we've went through experiences. The biggest lesson you can learn. And when you can get experience and lessons, you teach that's priceless. Now, I sometimes think like college, in some sense, I think it's for some people, they're wasting their money. Like, they could go invest 10, 20,000 with me and they would get a way better education because I could teach them real life examples. And so, yeah, that's why I love XPRIZE. I love what Peter Diamandis and them are doing in terms of just changing the way people are thinking, what we're doing, going to space, all that. Like, I love that shit. One thing I'm telling you right now, and anybody has the connections here, by the time I'm 50, I want to go to space. I want to wait. I told one of my friends, or they told me that you could probably go for a couple $1 million if you do it through the Russians. And I said, I'll wait, but I do. By the time I'm 50, I want to go to space.
Brandon, do you want
that out there?
You want a one-way or a return? You can get a one-way quite cheaply, I think.
Yeah, I want a return.
That's good.
Yeah, then maybe not the Russians.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Brandon, do you meditate?
Yes. Not as much as I should. I did a little bit today, but I have my niece and nephew who are a 2-year-old and 9-year-old, but I do, but not as much as I should. I do love meditation, breathing techniques. I think it's powerful to clear the mind and just kind of like, just be, but that is something I'm working on more.
So Brandon, what would you tell the 16-year-old self in Iowa?
I would tell the 16-year-old self, for one, go read the book Think and Grow Rich. And I would tell them to surround themselves. I mean, it's hard at 16. At 16, I was just thinking about women, right? But knowing what I know now, I mean, there's a lot of testosterone going at that time. But knowing what I know now, like, if I was 16 and knew what I wanted, I would tell my younger self, go find somebody that's doing that at the highest level and just go volunteer to work with them for free for as long as possible. and that will get you the quickest to where you want to go. I mean, it's really the way to cheat your way to the top. It's how can you find somebody already doing it at the highest level, add value to them, help them, and be so valuable that they don't want you to leave. And so that's what I would tell them.
That's a good thing. Cheat your way to the top. I like that. It's not cheating, is
Yeah.
it? It's being clever.
It's not. It's just smart. And
Yeah.
the problem is, it does take a lot of work. Most people aren't willing to do it. They just aren't willing to. They don't, because they don't know what they don't know. But again, I learned in the book. There's a story. By the way, I got extra minutes if you guys want to ask questions. I know we're going the top hour, but I want to share this. So Edward C. Barnes, how he got into business with Thomas Edison, is he knew he wanted to go in business with Thomas Edison. He showed up at his doorstep. By the way, he didn't even have money for a train ticket to get there. He just jumped on the train and got there. He went up and this is, by the way, in the movie. I'll give you guys all access. It's in this movie, the story. We filmed the whole thing. So he showed up and he said, Thomas Edison, I'm here to go in business with you. Thomas Edison said, I don't have a job for you. He's like, I don't care. I'll do anything. I'll sweep your floors. And eventually the time will present itself, but I'm here to go in business with you. And he said to him, he said, son, when I see a conviction like that on somebody's face, it can be very dangerous and powerful. You can sweep my floors. He swept his floors. And eventually the opportunity came, and there was a sales meeting with all these salespeople, and Thomas Edison wanted them to sell this invention he had. Well, they said they couldn't sell it. Edward C. Barnes came up and said, Thomas, I will sell your invention. He went on and sold millions of dollars with it. He became a multimillionaire at that time. And it's called Invented by Edison and Installed by Barnes. That's just the true story of how you can get into business with somebody. That story is what I think about. And that's how I got into business with all these people.
Brilliant.
And we have both reached the top of the hour, and Christoph has already joined us here. Brandon, thank you so much for this powerful session. If you would share the access to that documentary, to that film with me, I'll share it with the group. As I said before, every one of you will get the book. I think that's definitely something how I can give a little back of this powerful experience, this powerful session. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. I hope all you did. I'm going to connect you all so you can also take it from here to wherever it goes.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate the opportunity, and feel free to reach out to me. My email's in the chat, Brandon T. Adams, and just email me and I'll give you access to the film for free.
Thanks a lot, Brandon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys.
All the best. Have a good one. Bye.